Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, Bhishma's Passing Away, Sloka 22. Tathapye ekanta bhakteshu pasya bhupanukampitam yan meshu satyajataha sakshat krishno darshanam agataha. Yet, despite his being equally kind to everyone, he has graciously come before me while I am ending my life, for I am his unflinching servitor. The Supreme Lord, Absolute Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, although equal to everyone, is still more inclined to his unflinching devotee who is completely surrendered and knows no one else as his protector and master. Having unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord as one's protector, friend, and master is the natural condition of eternal life. A living entity is so made by the will of the Almighty that he is most happy when placing himself in a condition of absolute dependence. The opposite tendency is the cause of fall down. The living entity has this tendency of falling down by dint of misidentifying himself as fully independent to lord it over the material world. The root cause of all troubles is there in false egoism. One must draw towards the Lord in all circumstances. The appearance of Lord Krishna at the deathbed of Bhishmaji is due to his being an unflinching devotee of the Lord. Arjun had some bodily relation with Krishna because the Lord happened to be his maternal cousin, but Bhishma had no such bodily relation. Therefore, the cause of attraction was due to the intimate relation of the soul. Yet, because the relation of the body is very pleasing and natural, the Lord is more pleased when he is addressed as the son of Maharaj Nanda, the son of Yashoda, the lover of Radharani. This affinity by bodily relation with the Lord is another feature of reciprocating loving service to the Lord. Bhishma Deva is conscious of this sweetness of transcendental humor, and therefore he likes to address the Lord as Vijay Shakhi, Partha Sakhi, etc., exactly like Nanda Nandana or Yashoda Nandana. The best way to establish our relation in transcendental sweetness is to approach him through his recognized devotees. One should not try to establish the relation directly. There must be a via medium which is transparent and competent to lead us to the right path. Shlok 23. Bhaktya aveshyamano yasmin vacha yannam kirtayana tyajana kalevaram yogi ma uchyate kamakarmabhi. The personality of Godhead who appears in the mind of the devotee by attentive devotion and meditation and by chanting of the holy name releases the devotee from the bondage of fruitive activities at the time of his quitting the material body. Yoga means concentration of the mind detached from all other subject matter, and actually such concentration is samadhi or 100% engagement in the service of the Lord, and one who concentrates his attention in that manner is called a yogi. Such a yogi, devotee of the Lord, engages himself 24 hours daily in the service of the Lord, so that his whole attention is engrossed with the thoughts of the Lord in ninefold devotional service, namely hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, praying, becoming a voluntary servant, carrying out orders, establishing friendly relationship, or offering all that one may possess in the service of the Lord. By such practice of yoga or linking up in the service of the Lord, one is recognized by the Lord Himself, as it is explained in the Bhagavat Gita concerning the highest perfectional stage of Samadhi. The Lord calls such a rare devotee the best amongst all the yogis. Such a perfect yogi is enabled by the divine grace of the Lord to concentrate his mind upon the Lord with a perfect sense of consciousness, and thus by chanting his holy name before quitting the body, the yogi is at once transferred by the internal energy of the Lord to one of the eternal planets where there is no question of material life and its concomitant factors. In material existence, a living being has to endure the material conditions of threefold miseries, life after life, according to his fruitive work. Such material life is produced by material desires only. Devotional service of the Lord does not kill the natural desires of the living being, but they are applied in the right cause of devotional service. This qualifies the desire to be transferred in the spiritual sky. General Bhishma Deva is referring to a particular type of yoga called Bhakti Yoga, and he was fortunate enough to have the Lord directly in his presence before he quitted his material body. He therefore desired that the Lord stay before his view in the following verses. Shlok 24. Sadeva Devo Bhagavan Pratikshatam Kalevaram Yavat Idam Hina म्यो अहम प्रसन्नाः सारुण लोचनो लस नमुखाम्बुजो ध्यानपथश्चतुर्भुजः. May my Lord, who is four-handed and whose beautifully decorated lotus face with eyes as red as the rising sun is smiling, kindly await me at that moment when I quit this material body. Bhishma Deva knew well that Lord Krishna is the original Narayana. His worshipable deity was four-handed Narayana, but he knew that four-handed Narayana is a plenary expansion of Lord Krishna. Indirectly, he desired Lord Shri Krishna to manifest himself in his four-handed feature of Narayana. A Vaishnava is always humble in his behavior, although it was 100% certain that Bhishma Deva was approaching Vaikuntha Dham just after leaving his material body. Still, as a humble Vaishnava, he desired to see the beautiful face of the Lord, for after quitting the present body, he might not be in a position to see the Lord anymore. A Vaishnava is not puffed up, although the Lord guarantees his pure devotee entrance into his abode. Here Bhishma Deva says, as long as I do not quit this body, this means that the great general would quit the body by his own will. He was not being forced by the laws of nature. He was so powerful that he could stay in his body as long as he desired. He got this benediction from his father. He desired that the Lord stay before him in his four-handed Narayan feature, so that he might concentrate upon him and thus be in entrance in that meditation. Then his mind might be sanctified with thinking of the Lord. Thus he did not mind wherever he might go. A pure devotee is never very anxious to go back to the kingdom of God. He entirely depends on the goodwill of the Lord. He is equally satisfied even if the Lord desires him to go to hell. The only desire that a pure devotee entertains is that he may always be in rapt attention with thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord regardless. Bhishma Deva wanted this much only, that his mind be absorbed in thinking of the Lord and that he pass away thus. That is the highest ambition of a pure devotee. Shlok 25 Sutta Uvacha Yudhishthir Tadak Akarnya Shayanam Sharapanjare Apruchadvi Dharman Rupshinam Cha Anushrunavam. Sutta Goswami said, Maharaj Yudhishthir, after hearing Bhishma Deva speak in that appealing tone, asked him in the presence of all the great rishis about the essential principles of various religious duties. Bhishma Deva, speaking in that appealing tone, conceived Maharaj Yudhishthir that he was very soon passing away, and Maharaj Yudhishthir was inspired by Lord Shri Krishna to ask him of the principles of religion. Lord Shri Krishna inspired Maharaj Yudhishthir to ask Bhishma Deva in the presence of many great sages, indicating thereby that the Lord's devotee, like Bhishma Deva, although apparently living as a worldly man, is far superior to many great sages, even Vyasa Deva. Another point is that Bhishma Deva at that time was not only lying on a deathbed of arrows, but he was greatly aggrieved because of that state. One should not have asked him any question at that time, but Lord Shri Krishna wanted to prove that his pure devotees are always sound in body and mind by dint of spiritual enlightenment. Thus, in any circumstances, a devotee of the Lord is in perfect order to speak of the right way of life. Yudhishthira also preferred to solve his problematic questions from Bhishma Deva rather than ask anyone else present there who was seemingly more learned than Bhishma Deva. This is all due to the arrangement of the great wheel carrier Lord Shri Krishna, who establishes the glories of his devotee. The father likes to see the son become more famous than himself. The Lord declares very emphatically that worship of his devotee is more valuable than the worship of the Lord himself. Shlok 26 Purusha Swabhava Vihitan Yatha Varna Yatha Ashramam Vairagya Ragopadhibhyam Amanatobhyam Lakshanan. At Maharaj Yudhishthira's inquiry, Bhishma Deva first of all defined all the classifications of caste and orders of life in terms of the individual's qualifications. Then he systematically, in twofold divisions, described counteraction by detachment and interaction by attachment. The conception of four castes and four orders of life, as planned by the Lord Himself, is to accelerate transcendental qualities of the individual person so that he may gradually realize his spiritual identification and thus act accordingly to get free from material bondage or conditioned life. In almost all the Puranas, the subject matter is described in the same spirit, and so also in the Mahabharata. It is more elaborately described by Bhishma Deva in the Santi Parva, beginning from the 16th chapter. The Varnashram Dharma is prescribed for the civilized human being just to train him to successfully terminate human life. Self realization is distinguished from the life of the lower animals engaged in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. Bhishma Deva advised for all human beings 9 qualifications: not to become angry, not to lie, to equally distribute wealth, to forgive, to beget children only by one's legitimate wife, to be pure in mind and hygiene in body, not to be inimical toward anyone, to be simple, to support servants or subordinates. One cannot be called a civilized person without acquiring the above mentioned preliminary qualities. Besides this, the Brahmanas or the intelligent man, the administrative man, the mercantile community, and the laborer class must acquire special qualities in terms of occupational duties mentioned in all the Vedic scriptures. For the intelligent man, controlling the senses is the most essential qualification, which is the basis of morality. Sex indulgence, even with a legitimate wife, must also be controlled, and thereby family control will automatically follow. An intelligent man abuses his great qualifications if he does not follow the Vedic way of life. This means he must seriously make a study of the Vedic literatures, especially of the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. For learning Vedic knowledge, one must approach a person who is 100% engaged in devotional service. He must not do things which are forbidden in the Shastras. A person cannot be a teacher if he drinks or smokes. In the modern system of education, the teacher's academic qualification is taken into consideration without evaluation of his moral life. Therefore, the result of education is misuse of high intelligence in so many ways. The Kshatriyas or the administrative class is specially advised to give in charity and not to accept charity in any circumstances. Modern administrators raise subscriptions for some political functions but never give in charity to the citizens in any state function. It is just the reverse in the injunctions of the Shastras. The administrative class must be well versed in the Shastras but must not take to the profession of teachers. The administrators should never pretend to become non-violent and thereby go to hell. When Arjun wanted to become a non-violent coward in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he was severely chastised by Lord Krishna. The Lord degraded Arjuna at that time to the status of an uncivilized man for his overt acceptance of the cult of nonviolence. The administrative class must be personally trained in the military education. Cowards should not be elevated to the presidential throne by dint of numerical votes only. The monarchs were all chivalrous personalities, and therefore monarchy should be maintained provided the monarch is regularly trained in the occupational duties of a king. In fighting, the king or the president should never return home without being hurt by the enemy. The so called king of today never visits the war field. He is very much expert in artificially encouraging the fighting strain in the hope of false national prestige. As soon as the administrative class is turned into a gang of mercantile and liberal men, the whole machinery of government becomes polluted. The Vaishyas or the mercantile communities are especially advised to protect the cows. Cow protection means increasing the milk productions, namely curd and butter. Agriculture and distribution of the foodstuff are the primary duties of the mercantile community, backed by education in Vedic knowledge and trained to give in charity. As the Kshatriyas were given charge of the protection of the citizens, Vaishyas were given the charge of the protection of animals. Animals are never meant to be killed. Killing of animals is a symptom of barbarian society. For a human being, agricultural produce, fruits and milk are sufficient and compatible foodstuffs. The human society should give more attention to animal protection. The productive energy of the laborer is misused when he is occupied by industrial enterprises. Industry of various types cannot produce the essential needs of man, namely rice, wheat, grains, milk, fruits, and vegetables. The production of machines and machine tools increases the artificial living fashion of a class of vested interest and keeps thousands of men in starvation and unrest. This should not be the standard of civilization. The Shudra class is less intelligent and they have no independence. They are meant for rendering sincere service to the three highest sections of the society. The Shudra class can attain all comforts of life simply by rendering service to the higher classes. It is especially enjoyed that a Shudra should never bank money. As soon as the Shudras accumulate wealth, it will be misused for sinful activities in wine, women, and gambling. Wine, women, and gambling indicate that the population is degraded into less than Shudra quality. The higher caste should always look after the maintenance of the Shudras and they should provide them with old and used garments. A Shudra should not leave his master when the master is old and invalid, and the master should keep the servants satisfied in all respects. The Shudras must first of all be satisfied by sumptuously fed or given charity, clothing, etc. The laborers are thus dissatisfied and so they make agitation. The Varnas are, so to speak, classifications of different occupations, and ashram dharma is gradual progress on the path of self realization. Both are interrelated and one is dependent on the other. The main purpose of ashram dharma is to awaken knowledge and detachment. The brahmachari ashram is the training ground for the prospective candidates. In this ashram, it is instructed that this material world is not actually the home of the living being. The conditioned soul under material bondage are prisoners of matter, and therefore self realization is the ultimate aim of life. The whole system of ashram dharma is a means to detachment. One who fails to assimilate this spirit of detachment is allowed to enter into family life with the same spirit of detachment. Therefore, one who attains detachment may at once adopt the fourth order, namely renounced, and thus live on charity only. Not to accumulate wealth, but just to keep body and soul together for ultimate realization. Household life is for one who is attached, and the vanaprastha and sannyas orders of life are for those who are detached from material life. The brahmachari ashram is specially meant for training both the attached and detached.